How are you keeping yourself energized and motivated every single day?
Ultimately, kindness is the motivator.
It was just so great to be inspired by what people are doing.
People are amazingly creative and they're given all the resources in the world to do fun stuff. And I think that's motivating.
Someone believed in me more than I believed in myself.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Motivated Podcast today. How do I sound?
Like you're on an airplane.
I didn't ask you how I look. When we were asking Anna about how she was kind of navigating these really uncertain times, because she's such an organized person and she's a strategist, right? Former, Forbes top CMO. She's all about identifying the problem, solving it, seeking out a North Star, understanding whether she has the resources or not. But she brought up this idea of TRIC, and it's an acronym for trust, responsibility, initiative, collaboration. And then she ended with this thing that was so surprising to me: kindness.
We as leaders, we had this giant shift towards more human, empathetic leadership, more understanding, more forgiving, more personal at the end of the day, because it's like all of a sudden it was like empathy and humanity and personalization became the most important. And to illustrate it further, I'm going to use from Esther Wojcicki, who is mother of three sisters, the CEO of YouTube, and she's mother of 23andMe, and on one epidemiologist and anthropologist at the University of California. So she knows what she's talking about, and she wrote a book about how to raise successful people. And she has this acronym TRIC that outlines 5 values. The first one is trust. So this is something that's unbelievably important at the moment, and it has become unbelievably important when you're not in the same space with others. We need to trust each other that the work will be done, that we're all moving in the same direction. The second one is responsibility. That means that the people take on accountability and are responsible for their action, but you also trust them with that. The third one is initiative, which means that you create a framework and you let people do it in their own way within that framework. You empower them to share their own ideas, empower them to do things in their own way. C is collaboration, which means buy-in. It's not anymore like, oh, let's move fast, so only managers are making decisions, or senior managers. It's having the buy-in from the entire company to ensure everything. And the final one is kindness, which I think is the most important one, which refers to ability to make mistakes and not feel like you're going to be punished for it, which means making mistakes and knowing you're going to be forgiven. That sort of forgiving environment, because we all make mistakes. I mean, God knows, especially now.
So yeah, I mean, if we think about any of the podcasts that we've hosted, a majority of the companies and brands that they work with, they focus on relationships. It's all relationship driven. It goes back to this theme of we work with who we know and who we trust.
Ultimately, kindness is the motivator, because people need to know that their failures will be accepted so that they can move forward and they can thrive. And that by having more kindness in general, from a leadership perspective, we are actually motivating people in different ways. And I had never thought of kindness as this forgiving quality that led to people being more productive, or people being inspired, or people feeling that they can take risk. And I've always thought of trust as a key component. I think that trust is probably the thing that I put in people the most as far as my investment in people. I guess what surprised me so much about the kindness piece is that there's been such a deficit of kindness in the world recently.
Yeah.
because we've all been trying to just make things happen. And that for her to say that the solution during these uncertain times was that we would give people that permission, to screw up and treat people with compassion, as the great motivator, was, I guess it caught me off guard.
I don't know if it's permission, right? Like, I love the beginning part of everything that you said. I just don't know if it's permission. I think it's almost similarly to what you mentioned before, acceptance, right? Like, we are accepting that this is your current situation. So we'll give it another chance. Let's try again. Let's work together to try again. I do think that kindness can mean so many things to different people, right? I think that kindness can be as simple as understanding that somebody has to reschedule a meeting and not taking it personally. I think that kindness can impact how you feel on a certain day, and maybe you just had a bad day. So I've done this before. I'll send them something delivered to their house. So like, I'll get something specially delivered to make them feel a little bit better. And I think it's like tokens of kindness that we need to remember. I know that we want to embrace kindness in general, and it should be part of our DNA and it should be part of our mantra. Except I think that it has to start with a stepping stone of like tokens of kindness. What can we do as a token of kindness every single day? And I think that that was the path that she was going down, that while kindness should be a little bit more overemphasized, if we can say that we accomplished a handful of tokens of kindness that day, then it should be self-fulfilling for us too, right? And if we feel fulfilled, then we'll be a little bit more motivated intrinsically.
Yeah, very much so. I think you're right. There are multiple interpretations of what kindness is, and I guess I was thinking about it in larger terms, but it can be as simple as these tokens or these gestures. I think that it's also a cultural phenomena, right?
Right.
Are you creating a culture of kindness in who you are, either in your personal brand or the environment that you're in? And that is an essential. It needs to be constant, right? It can't be randomized kindness. There's surprise and delight is very effective, hence the term, but kindness needs to be something that I can kind of rely on, not hope for. Another piece from the Anna conversation that I really liked is you asked her, how are you staying motivated every day? And she said, I'm not. Very point blankly, she was able to say that she has good days and bad days, basically.
How are you keeping yourself energized and motivated every single day?
I don't. It's not every single day, and it's fine.
And that's honest. We appreciate that.
Right. Like sometimes when I'm always on, like I have to promote stuff on social media that gets into my head and I feel unproductive and unhappy. And other times I like today, this is the only thing I'm doing in terms of, actually it's not, unfortunately, but like, I kind of carve time to where I can just read and write. And yes, I have that luxury, but again, it's a luxury of time. And I encourage everyone just like not be on social. Today I'm ignoring social media. So that is how I feel more focused. I feel more relaxed. So you have to be conscious about it.
I really appreciated her acceptance of that, and the fact that not only she was candid with us, that she's a very highly motivated person. She had the motivation to write a book. She's had the motivation to launch a series of YouTube videos. She's been very, very active. She publishes a blog that's well followed. And she was able to say, that I have my good days and my bad days, and I'm not always motivated, and that's okay. And to me, what was interesting about that and the way that she stated it so clearly was that she nearly saw that as a badge of honor, that those days were days where good things could happen too.
Right. I agree. And it's funny because I was thinking about it from a lens of we have to stop being so hard on ourselves of the amount that we can get accomplished every day, and almost be proud of the work that we have accomplished. And this is a hard time. I think that we're going through a level of acceptance that the world won't be the same for a very long time.
Well, building off what you were saying, she quite literally said, sometimes I just schedule one thing for the day.
Right.
And the day that we were speaking to her, she had other things that were going to happen that day. But the only thing she had scheduled for that day was recording the podcast with us.
Right.
And the freeing of, now that's a real luxury. And she admitted that that was a luxury. I wish I could just schedule one thing for the day. But I got what she was saying. And she also added something that I thought was interesting. Now, this is highly personal and up for interpretation, but she said, don't look to others for motivation. You need to find whatever your internal source is. And I think some people would disagree with that, obviously. And I think that whatever works for you in the space of motivation. But I also found it interesting that she felt that motivation needed to come from doubling down on finding a passion, stepping out, stepping away, taking the day off, doing things differently, retracting a little bit, and that you're cultivating that source within yourself, not like leaning in, read more, listen to another podcast,
or maybe those do give you the spark, right? Like, I think for some people, they need that as that additional spark when they lean in intrinsically, right? Like, it might just be having some downtime as opposed to being part of a lot of different conversations to get them that piece of motivation. Every time I watch Shark Tank, I get motivated.
She told us also that what motivated her or inspired her were the stories of people who build something from nothing. And I think that that's part of your Shark Tank theory.
Yeah.
The well that you can keep going back to for inspiration, because you understand the power of how the individual can be additive.
It was just so great to be inspired by what people are doing and how they're like, some people came from Pakistan and built Atom's shoe brand, and that's how they were sitting in front of the store or in the Nike store and looking what like customer service, like associates, what people are asking for. So like crazy things like that, we all know, like, yes, that's ethnography, but when you hear that someone actually built something out of nothing, you're like, this is amazing.
And I think it's inspiring to me because that's like my grandfather's story. That's my dad's story. Both of them became entrepreneurs when they came to the States. And it's always been inspiring to me where they've been able to build something from nothing. And just watching all the pieces come together. So I think when Anna also said, keep moving and do things differently, it just goes back to that entrepreneurial mindset where if we can think a little bit differently, maybe we're able to self-motivate, or maybe we can motivate others. Pablo, that was such a good conversation.
It was. I'm feeling so motivated, but I want more.
Just hop on our website, motivatedpodcast.com, for more episodes.
But what if somebody wants a daily dose of motivation?
Connect with us on IG at Motivated Podcast.
And what do we say to close out this episode?
Until next time, stay motivated.